When you picture water damage, you probably think of a little leak, maybe a quick mop-up job. But honestly, the reality is way more complex and a lot more urgent. It's this hidden threat that can really mess with the structure of your home and even your health. So let's dive in and see what's really going on when the water starts to rise. So how can something like a city's geography turn a simple little leak into a complete and utter disaster? It's a pretty wild question, right? But the answer shows that where you live, the ground beneath your feet, the climate, even how old your city is, can seriously crank up the risk. We're going to dig into this by looking at one specific city to understand a problem that really could affect any of us. And that city is San Antonio, Texas. By taking a close look at its very unique set of challenges, we can really understand the science of water damage. And more importantly, you'll see exactly why getting a fast, professional response is so critical, no matter where you call home. In San Antonio, all these factors come together to create a true perfect storm. Think about it. The city's built on limestone and clay, which basically acts like a giant sponge. Then you have flash floods that can just tear through neighborhoods. Add in the tropical storms rolling in from the Gulf, old city pipes just waiting to burst, and top it all off with high humidity all year round? Well, that humidity basically acts like an incubator for mold. It all adds up to a place where water damage is this constant major threat. Okay, so let's imagine the worst happens to you. A pipe bursts, a storm hits, whatever it is. Those first few hours, they are absolutely everything. What you do, and just as importantly, what you don't do, can totally change the outcome. So here's what you need to do right away. Right. First things first, your priorities are simple. Keep everyone safe and stop things from getting worse. Find that water main and shut it off. Then, kill the power to that part of the house that is not negotiable. Get your valuables and furniture out of there if you can, and take pictures of everything for the insurance company. Now, on the flip side, do not, under any circumstances, use a regular shop vac on standing water. It's a huge shock hazard. Don't turn on your air conditioning or heat because that'll just spread contaminants everywhere. And maybe the biggest mistake of all, just assuming, it'll dry on its own. Nope, that's just rolling out the welcome mat for mold. So, once you've handled those immediate safety steps, it's time to get the pros on the phone. This is the moment where the whole situation shifts. It goes from pure chaos and panic to a controlled, methodical process that's all about saving your home. The minute you make that call, the process is in motion. A team gets dispatched, usually right away. But when they get there, they don't just start pumping. First, they do a really thorough assessment, using tools like thermal cameras to find moisture that's hiding inside your walls. Then, and only then, do they start the water extraction with some seriously powerful truck-mounted gear. And how fast does all this get started? Well, the industry standard for showing up on site is just 60 minutes, 1 hour. That's how urgent this is. Every single minute that water sits there, it's just creeping further into your drywall, soaking deeper into the bones of your house. That 1 hour window is absolutely crucial to stop a small problem from turning into a massive rebuild. You see, getting the standing water out is really just the beginning. The real trick, and where the true expertise comes in, is drying the structure itself. And this is not about just opening a few windows and hoping for the best. This is a legitimate science, and it's what prevents long-term nightmares like rot and mold. So before any real drying can happen, the pros have to know exactly what they're dealing with. And for that, they use a system from the IICRC, which is kind of the main standards organization for the industry. It's called water categories, and it's all about classifying water based on how contaminated it is. The big takeaway here is that not all water is created equal. Category 1, that's clean water from something like a broken pipe. But Category 2, or gray water, say from an overflowing dishwasher, that's already got some nasty stuff in it. And then there's Category 3, black water. This is the bad stuff, sewage, river flooding, and it is seriously contaminated and a major health risk. Which category you have dictates the entire cleanup plan, from the safety gear they wear to what materials have to be completely torn out and thrown away. So why is all this science so important? Well, you are in a race against this number. In a warm, damp environment, mold can start growing in as little as 24 to 48 hours. Seriously. If a house isn't dried out properly and fast, a water problem is guaranteed to become a mold problem. And that's a whole different level of complex, expensive, and risky for your health. Now, this quote might sound a little technical, but here's what it really means. Professionals use something called psychrometrics, which is basically the science of how air and moisture interact to create a super dry environment inside your home. They use precise calculations, not guesswork, to set up huge dehumidifiers and air movers, controlling everything to literally pull the moisture out of the walls and floors as fast as humanly possible. All right, so once the structure is scientifically proven to be dry, the final phase can start, putting it all back together. This is the road to getting your house back to the way it was before, and it's a journey with a few key steps. Reconstruction isn't just about making things look pretty. It starts with carefully tearing out anything that was too damaged to save. Then, even after the main drying is done, the exposed wood framing gets treated. Only after all that's done can the new drywall, insulation, and flooring go in, followed by those final touches, like paint and trim, that really make it feel like you're home again. And just to give you a realistic idea of the timing, this is what a typical project might look like. Day 1 is all about that emergency work. The really critical drying of the structure can take anywhere from 3 to 7 days. And the full-on reconstruction? Well, depending on how bad things are, that's often a 2 to 4 week job. It is definitely a marathon, not a sprint, if you want it done right.
Okay, wow, we have covered a lot of ground, right? From the crazy risks in San Antonio all the way to the science of drying. So now, let's boil all of this down into a simple, actionable playbook that you can actually use. Here are the absolute essentials you need to remember. First, know your home's unique risks. Is your plumbing old? Are you in a floodplain? Second, if something happens, act fast but focus on safety above all else. Third, remember those water categories. Where the water came from matters a lot. Fourth, appreciate that proper drying is a real science. And finally, never forget that speed is everything. That mold clock starts ticking the second things get wet. And that really brings us to our final thought here. Look, getting through a water damage emergency is a huge relief. But the real win is being prepared. It's about knowing your risks, having a plan, and understanding the process before disaster ever strikes. Because at the end of the day, being prepared is the only thing that turns a potential catastrophe into just a manageable crisis.